Hello and welcome to Mangum News. I'm your host, Elijah Mangum. This week we'll be discussing Elizabeth Truss, appointed Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, Pinocchio, D23 Expo, Florence High School's game against Maggie, my weekly weather report, and Maggie Wade Dixon's 9/11 story. Without further ado, let's begin. Following Boris Johnson's resignation in July as the leader of the Conservative Party, Foreign Secretary Elizabeth Truss was elected the United Kingdom's next party leader on Monday. On Tuesday, Queen Elizabeth II appointed her Prime Minister in a rare public appearance. On day one, Prime Minister Truss proposed tax cuts, a cap on domestic energy prices, and an end to the ban on fracking.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
Just 2 days after appointing a new Prime Minister, the UK's longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, passed away at age 96 on Thursday. She died at her vacation home in Scotland following serious health concerns Thursday morning. Immediately, her son, Prince Charles, became king. Pinocchio is a sweet and hilarious remake of the 1940 animated classic, with good performances and great production design. The film stays pretty close to the vest when it comes to adapting the original, but the changes it does make, especially the ending, tarnishes what made that film so special. Overall, I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Disney's biannual convention, D23 Expo, returns to Anaheim for the first time since 2019. Here are the biggest announcements coming out of Hall D23. Disney and Pixar held their panel on Friday. Disney released trailers for Hocus Pocus 2, streaming on Disney Plus September 30th. Disenchanted streaming this Thanksgiving.
The last stroke of 12. Nothing will be as it was before.
Stepmother!
Oh, Giselle, what have you done? That's wicked.
Wicked good.
And The Little Mermaid, releasing in theaters on May 26.
Out of the sea, wish I could be part of that world.
The Haunted Mansion will release on March 10th, 2023 in theaters, before Peter Pan and Wendy will stream on Disney Plus later that year. In 2024, the Lion King prequel, Mufasa, The Lion King, and Snow White will hit theaters. Walt Disney Animation Studios will release Strange Worlds this Thanksgiving. Awaju will stream in 2023, and Wish is set to release in theaters in 2023. From Pixar Animation Studios, Elemental will release in summer 2023, Elio in spring 2023, and Inside Out 2 in summer 2024. Lucasfilm debuted trailers for Andor, streaming September 21st.
Star Wars Andor.
Willow, streaming November 30th. The Mandalorian Season 3 streaming February 2023, and more.
All right, kid. Hang on. You ready for an adventure?
Indiana Jones 5 showed off concept art and exclusive footage. Marvel Studios released trailers for their Halloween special, Werewolf by Night, streaming on Disney Plus October 7th.
Tonight, it is every hunter for themselves.
Good luck. I'll be rotting for you.
And Secret Invasion, streaming spring 2023.
It's just the beginning.
This is my war alone. And I'm the last person standing between them and what they really want.
And what is that?
Exclusive footage for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Loki Season 2, Echo, and The Marvels were also shown. WandaVision's Matt Shankman was confirmed to direct Fantastic Four. Tim Blake Nelson will reprise his role as the leader from 2008's The Incredible Hulk and Captain America: New World Order. The Thunderbolts lineup will include Yelena Belova, Red Guardian, Taskmaster, Winter Soldier, U.S. Agent, and Ghost. Later on Saturday, teasers premiered for a series such as The Santa Clauses, streaming November 16th,
That's me.
National Treasure: Edge of History, streaming December 14th,
Trust no one.
and Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Because once you know what you are, you'll sense it too. And they'll come for you. Don't say I didn't warn you.
On Sunday, the Disney Parks panel included updates on attractions across the parks. Florence High School defeated Maggie 43-7 Friday night at Maggie. Next week, Florence will hold their homecoming game against Jim Hill. Sunday, we'll have a 40% chance of isolated thunderstorms with a high of 86 and a low of 68. Monday will be partly cloudy with a 20% chance of rain, a high of 83, low of 62. Tuesday will be mostly sunny with a 0% chance of rain, a high of 85 and a low of 60. Wednesday will be mostly sunny with a 0% chance of rain, with a high of 86 and a low of 61. Thursday will be mostly sunny with a 0% chance of rain, with a high of 88 and a low of 66. Friday will be mostly sunny with a 0% chance of rain, with a high of 89 and a low of 68. Saturday will be mostly sunny as well, with a 0% chance of rain, and a high of 88 and a low of 68. So just kind of tell, you have a very unique 9/11 story, so kind of tell us a little bit about that day.
Well, I was actually in Washington, D.C. with my son. I had been nominated by Congressman Ronnie Showles as an angel in adoption, and they were angels in adoption, or those who work in the different states to promote adoption, to again get the word out about adoption. So I was nominated by him, and I actually was one of the recipients from Mississippi to receive the award and to be recognized by Congress that year. And so we went to Washington, me and my son. My son was 10 years old at the time. And our first day there, I got to visit with my aunt, who has now transitioned. She's no longer with us here on earth, but I went to visit her because she lives in D.C., and we got to see the Pentagon and all of that. And then on that day, 9/11, we had Congressman Shows had arranged for his chief of staff to give us a tour of the White House. It was called a congressional tour of the White House, and of course we had to go through all of the clearance and everything. And my son was kind of teasing. He was like, I want to see President Bush, because he has 2 daughters, and I could be his son. I could be the first son. And I was like, no, you can't leave me. And we got to sign. It's amazing. You sign a book that stays on file, and to know that our names are there for 9/11 is absolutely amazing to me. But we were going through the tour, and the gentleman who did the tour was so tall, he with the Secret Service, and so my son struck up a conversation with him, and we found out that he was a basketball player at Duke. And at that time, that was my son's dream. He always wanted to play basketball at Duke University. And so the Secret Service agent kind of took him off, and he was at the front of the line, and I was trying to keep an eye on him, and he was talking, and he had made plans with us, with me and Congressman Show's chief of staff, for to take pictures afterwards, because you're not allowed to stand in certain areas when the tour is over. So they told us, we'd have to move. So he told us where we could go. And but all of a sudden, the whole mood of the tour changed. They started rushing everyone out. And of course, we were looking for, the agent who had been with us. Couldn't find him. And when we got out, they kept saying, move, move. And they were becoming more intent on getting us away from the White House. And we didn't know what was going on, so we went to Lafayette Park. When we got to Lafayette Park, my son turned and he said, Mama, look. And it was like all the chefs, we saw people running out. He said, did they set the kitchen on fire? Because we're thinking now there's been some kind of emergency in the White House and all these. And then this man walks up to me and he said, you should be ashamed of yourself for having a child out here. Don't you know what's going on? And we said no. And then we noticed we didn't have cell service. And we kept trying, but finally Congressman Shows got through, and he told his chief of staff to get us out of D.C., that we were under attack, and that the Twin Towers in New York had been hit by planes, and that at that point they didn't know if they were going to strike the White House or if they were actually going to strike the Capitol. And so he said that, they had gotten them to some areas, and they were trying to figure out what was going on, but he was like, get Maggie and her son out of D.C. And so at that point, we finally got to his car. We saw people crying. And about that time, we found out that the Pentagon had been hit. And I couldn't get cell phone service to let my family know that I was okay. And I kept trying to call. I finally was able to get through to WLBT when we got to his home, and we were able to call out, and I was able to let the station know I'm okay. Will you please, let my husband know? And so I was trying to reach family, and then at that point we started watching the news, and that's when the gravity of what happened. And I'll never forget hearing one of the newscasters say that they really felt that the White House was a target, and that last plane that went down in Pennsylvania, those brave people aboard that flight who took it down, they felt that that plane was either going to try to hit the White House or the nation's capital, the Capitol building. And that was when I realized that God had truly protected us, that it was really, I don't know, I've never felt so patriotic. I've never loved my country more than watching how people were coming together to try to help others. And And I remember praying and asking God to just help our nation. I prayed for the victims because there were so many, and I thought about the people at the Pentagon, and we had been there the day before. We had seen it. We didn't get an extensive tour, but we had seen the Pentagon the day before, and now this plane had gone into the Pentagon. And so it was the most unbelievable, surreal. There was just a feeling of despair, but at the same time, hope. And as I said, patriotism. I loved my country, and there was anger and disbelief that somebody would do this to our nation. And at that point, we said, right now what we need to try to do is see if we can get home. And when he finally got us back to the hotel room, and everything was taking forever, no cabs would pick up anybody. The cabs would not. So he had to take us back to our hotel. Thank God we still had a hotel room, because at that point everything was shut down. And I tried to get a flight back home. No airlines were flying. I tried to get a train. No trains were going out. I tried to rent a car. Couldn't do that. So it was like we were stuck. So the station asked me if I could get to the NBC headquarters there. That if I could make my way to there, they wanted to do a live interview about what was going on, about our experience and what happened. And the most amazing thing happened, and that was the day after. We were going into the NBC lobby, and there were two gentlemen coming toward us, and I didn't recognize either one of them. But it turned out, as they got closer, I did recognize Senator John McCain. And he went straight for my son and said, "Hey there, little buddy, how you doing?" And Jeremy said, "I'm okay." He said, "I see you're taking care of your mama." He said, "I just want you to know everything is going to be all right. This is the greatest nation in the world. Everything is going to be all right." From that point on, John McCain always had a special place in my heart because he comforted my son. He didn't know us. We were not his constituents, but there was so much compassion. There was so much strength and comfort in the words that he gave to my son. And then he introduced himself, and he said, "I'm Senator John McCain," and he shook my hand, and I introduced myself. And the other gentleman kept walking, but he stayed there and talked with us. He wanted to make sure that we were okay. Didn't know us from anybody, but that's the kind of man he was, and his love for this country, his patriotism. It was just really amazing. And so he held the door open, and we walked in, and he turned around and kind of saluted a little bit to my son and said, "Take care, little buddy." And he was gone. And my son always said, he said, "I always wondered why I liked John McCain." And he said, and I realized, he said, "I realized that's why." And I don't get into politics. I don't talk about, things like that. But I saw his great love for this country, for this nation. And that always held a special place in my heart, how he treated us. And so I did the interview, and I talked about how badly I wanted to get home. And by then I had talked to my husband, and he said, "I knew you were in the safest place in the world, in the White House." He said, "I knew you were going to be okay as long as you were in the White House." And I said, "Well, they kicked us out." And they really didn't. They just had everybody to leave out of the White House. And, we just kind of laughed about it. And I said, "I just want to get home. I just want to get Jeremy home, and I want to get home." And you would not believe how many people called and offered to drive to D.C. to pick us up. One businessman offered to allow to have his plane come and get us, but they weren't really allowing flights. It was amazing how Mississippians reached out. But let me tell you how I got home. Cheryl Lassiter reached my husband. She was able to get him and said, "If Maggie can reach me, we have got a rental car and we're driving back to Mississippi." She was with her then fiance, who is her husband. Of course, they've been married now for years. And so I was able to connect with Cheryl. We took a cab from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore, Maryland, and got in the car with Cheryl and Michael. And because of Cheryl and Michael and their generosity there. It was so sweet. We drove from all the way back to Mississippi, and that's how we got home. And I have never been more happy to be back in this state and to see my husband. And it was really, my son thinks about it now. We did some art. We did a few articles and things like that. But being in the White House and seeing all the great things that this nation has done and has been a part of, I think sometimes we take that for granted. But I truly believe we live in the greatest country in the world, and I'm proud to be a Mississippian. And it is my prayer that we never experience anything like 9/11 again. They were evil men who were intent on destroying something and taking something from us in this nation, and they didn't win. We won. Evil will never win, and evil will never triumph over good. And I hold on to that.
That's all we have for this week. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all on Sunday.